Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we are here with Arduino tutorial number 13. Hopefully you've been with us through the first 12 as we try to each lesson build a little bit on what we learned in the previous ones. And today in lesson number 13 we're going to be learning how to control an RGB LED. Okay, if you think about some of our earlier lessons, we learned how to control a simple LED, like let's say a red LED, and we learned that we could control its brightness by doing analog writes, and we could also blink it on and off by controlling delay times. And so we played around quite a bit, and we learned a lot about programming and circuits with our simple LEDs. Well, today we're going to kind of take it to the next level, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at this new component called an RGB LED. Now what I'm trying to do as I go through these tutorials is I'm trying to sort of go through one and learn a little bit about programming, and then go through another one and learn a little bit more about circuits, and we're sort of kind of learning circuits and programming at the same time. Well, today I don't think we're really going to learn any new programming, but we are going to learn about a new component, and the component that we're going to learn about is the RGB LED. Now the thing about an RGB LED is that you can turn it red, you can turn it green, or you can turn it blue. The really cool thing is that you can turn it all the in-between colors, and we'll talk a little bit more about the in-between colors towards the last part of the video, but for right now what we're going to do is we're going to be focusing on these three primary colors. Now in a simple LED you had two connections. You had the control pin and then you had the ground. Well, on the RGB LED you have four connections. And the specific type of RGB LED that we're going to be talking about is the common cathode. And what the common cathode LED is, basically all of these three colors, red, green, and blue, they all share a common cathode or a common ground. I tell you that because there's also common anode LEDs, and what they do is they share a common high line, and each one comes out with its own separate ground. I think those are much more confusing to work with, and I really don't like them. The only reason that I mention them is that if you just go get an RGB LED out of a supply cabinet, you need to make sure that it's a common cathode one for this tutorial to apply. If you purchase the SparkFun Inventor Kit, the LEDs that come in the Spark Inventor Kit are indeed the preferred common cathode LEDs. And so I just say that so that you know that make sure that you're using a common cathode one. So how does this work? Well, you have four pins on this LED. You have a ground. That ground is common to the red, the green, and the blue LED components. They're sort of how you connect them up. They're kind of coded by the length of the wires or the length of the leads. The long lead is the ground. Okay, if you have it oriented towards like this, right to the left of the long ground is the shortest pin, which is the red. And so you've got the red control pin here, you've got the ground, and then you sort of go green and blue. Okay, so RGB. Okay, so look at that, and it's kind of good to lay your LED out because you really got to make sure that you keep it oriented the way that I'm doing it when I go through this video. Now what I've done is I have taken this RGB, R, ground, green, blue, and I have moved it over and plugged it in like this into the breadboard. Now normally I just let you, at this point you've got enough experience just to hook these things up, but this one is a new component, so I want to sort of take you through it a little bit more step by step. So if you think about it, when you were working with a simple LED, how many control pins did you need on the Arduino? You needed one. Well, now we're going to be controlling three different colors, so how many control pins are you going to need now? Yeah, you're going to need three. All right. What's something else that we learned about LEDs? You never hook an LED directly up to a control voltage. You always run it through a what? A current limiting resistor. When we were just controlling one color, we needed one current limiting resistor. In controlling three colors, we need what? Three current limiting resistors. So each one of these colors needs its own series current limiting resistor. So in your circuit, you're going to have 3 current limiting resistors instead of 1. So let's look at it. This is the ground pin, the second one over. We come over here to the ground pin. That needs to connect to ground. We come up to our ground rail. Okay. How do we make this the ground rail? Well, we bring the ground from the Arduino. So ground from the Arduino establishes this row as a ground rail, and then we come off of that ground rail over to the second pin, which corresponds to the ground. Okay. Now let's start hooking up the colors. Let's start with blue. Okay. Blue is over here to the right, and I like to kind of color code my wires sometimes because that makes it easier. That this blue pin on the LED, I'm going to run blue wires to indicate that. That comes over here to this current resistor, go through the current limiting resistor to pin 6. You could use a different pin, but just make sure it's one of the ones with a squiggly line, okay, because we're going to want to do analog writes. Now the next pin over is green. This is your green pin. We connect green to its own current limiting resistor, comes over, goes up to pin 10. Red comes over, goes up to pin 11. The main thing is not to end up with these different legs in the same column. Okay, so this resistor needs to have its own column to come up to pin 10. You shouldn't put this resistor and this resistor in the same column. Otherwise, you've got them hooked up in parallel and you're not really getting the 330 ohms across that leg of the circuit like you want. Okay, so blue is controlled by pin 6 through this LED, through this resistor, coming to this blue pin. Okay, then green, all right, through this resistor up to pin 10, and then red through this resistor up to pin 11. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you sort of see what we're doing. It's kind of like hooking up 3 separate ones, but they're all sort of 3 in 1. They are 3 in 1. Okay, so now with that, we need to kind of think about starting to set up our code. Okay, we got to set up our code so that we can get this thing running. So I need to call up an Arduino control environment. All right, and I need to start writing the code. So what do we do up at the well, we declare our variables. So how many variables are we going to need? Well, let's kind of think about our variables. Well, first of all, how many pins are we going to control? We're going to control 3. So how many pin variables do we need? We're going to need 3. And so what I'm going to do is we declare our pin variables ints. So I'm going to need a what? I'm going to need a red pin. Okay, the red pin is going to be what? Let's go back and look and remind ourselves what that red pin is going to be. We need to go back and look. That red pin is going to be pin 11. Okay, so red pin is going to be 11, and we're going to be good boys and girls. We're going to declare, we're going to always comment our code. So set red LED pin to 11. Okay, what else do we need? Green pin. And green pin, and you can do this different ways, but you just got to make sure they match. Make sure that you're getting these things to match. So let's go back to this schematic. The green pin goes up through this and goes to pin 10. So we're going to set this green pin to pin 10. Always put our comment in. Set green LED pin to 10. Okay. What else do we need? Well, we got a blue pin, and that is going to be pin 6 on the Arduino. Set blue LED pin to 6. All right. The only other thing that I think is that I don't know if I want to turn these colors on full blast because the LED is pretty bright and it might be easier for you to see it on the camera if I toned it down a little bit. So I'm going to have a variable that I'm going to call brightness, and I'm going to set that to as an integer. I'm going to make it an integer Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it so it's not full brightness. Full brightness would be 255. That would be writing a 255 to it, would be putting a full 5 volts on it. I want something more like a, more like a volt or so, so it's not so bright. So I'm going to set it to about 75, and then this is set brightness to 75, so that way I think you'll be able to see it a little better. All right. Now, what do we need to do in our void setup? Well, I always turn the serial monitor on, whether I'm going to use it or not, because if there's a problem in the code, we'll want to go in and we'll want to look at numbers and stuff. And so for debugging, it's always good to turn on the serial port. Okay. What else do we need to do in our void setup? What do we do in our void setup? We do our pin modes. So let's set our pin modes. So pin mode, what's our first pin? Red pin. And we're going to set that to what? It's an output because we're writing to it. Set red pin to be an output. Okay. Pin mode. What's the next pin? Green pin. And it's a what? It's an output. So far, most of our stuffs have been outputs, but remember when we did the potentiometry, reading off of a potentiometer, the pins were inputs. So we have done input pins before. Set green pin to be an output. Okay, and then we have one more, pin mode. Remember, these things have got to turn orange because you go pin mode with a uppercase M in that. You've got to get the case just right. We're going to do blue pin, and blue pin is going to be an output. Okay, and then we're going to set blue pin to be an output. Okay, so those are our pin modes, and we turned our serial port on, so I think that looks good. Now what do we do to get this thing to turn on? We need to do some analog writes, and I think I would like to turn the LED blue. Okay, well if we want it to be blue, we need to write to all of the pins so that nothing is happening that we don't know. So analog write, we're going to write red pin. What are we going to want to write red pin to? I'm going to want to write it 0 because I want it to be blue. I don't want any red getting into my blue LED, so I want to set the red component to 0. Okay. Turn off red pin. I don't want anything on my red pin. I want it to be 0. Okay, analog write. How about green pin? What do I want that to be? I don't want any green in my blue, so I'm going to set that to 0. Okay. Turn off green pin. What do I want to write? Analog write. I want blue pin, and I want to set that to 255, right? No, 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 you never write a constant down here. You always use variables, and we use our what? Our brightness variable, which we didn't want 255 anyway. We wanted 75 because we don't want it to be too bright. So we're going to say write 75 to blue pin. So this is giving a little bit of a voltage. 75 over 255 would be what the voltage would be, but a little bit of a voltage times 5 would be a little bit of a voltage that we're going to put on blue pin, and the red and the green are going to be 0. And so when we hit this, let's see here, I need to come over here and get this circuit where you can see it. Okay, let's bring this over here where you can see it. Take a second to get this set up. Okay, I just think this is going to work real well. I need to back off on my zoom a little bit so that you can see it. Okay, so you see this is my LED, and then this circuit should be If I haven't made any mistakes, it should be this circuit that we've got the schematic here should be the circuit that I've set up there. Then I've got some code, and the code is going to turn the red pin off. It's going to turn the green pin off, but the blue pin of the LED I'm going to send a little bit of a signal to. So we would expect this to light up blue if we haven't made a mistake, but I have been known to make mistakes. So let's download it. We're getting lots of green. That looks good. It looks like everybody's happy. And look down here, this thing just turned blue, okay? And when I'm looking at it, I can see it just the nicest, prettiest blue, but it looks like when you're looking at it there that you see more like white, so I need to turn this down. Let's make it like 30 or something like that. Maybe if I turn it down, you can see more clearly in the camera. It's so bright, it's saturating the camera. Okay, that's still, let's see if I turn it. What if I kind of point it over, like bend it over a little bit? Okay, I think maybe there you can see a little bit better that that's blue. But that blue still looks like it's kind of saturating the camera. Let's take it down to 15. Now with your eye, you can turn it up bright and you can just see a beautiful blue color, but to get the camera to pick it up, I'm having to kind of turn it down. That looks pretty good. Let's see if I turn the light off, if you can kind of see it. Yeah, you see we got a nice pretty blue LED there with the light off, okay? I apologize, the camera doesn't show it up better, but there you can see that it's a nice pretty blue. Okay, well let's say that we wanted to turn it red. What would we do? Well, we would come in and do I want any blue in my red? No, I don't want any blue in my red, so I'm going to turn the blue pin. I'm going to analog write the blue pin to 0, and I would need to take the red pin to brightness. Okay, and the brightness is 15. So this is just a very small voltage that I'm putting on there. I'm barely turning it on so that you can see it nice and good on the camera. Okay, you can see that that turned red. That red maybe we can take up a little bit. Let's take it up to 50 and see if you can still see it. So we're still on the red pin and we're turning brightness up to 50. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll try to turn it back up like that. Yeah, that's just really... Let me try one thing on this camera, see if I can set it a little bit better there. Let me try one more time there. Okay. Okay. I really wish, let's see if I can take that off a little bit. I really wish that you could see the colors better, because they really are just spectacular bright red color. But on this darn camera, it's just kind of saturating out, and it's looking white. Okay. I'm going to go see if I can take it to 150, make it brighter. Okay, you can tell that that's red. Down here especially, you can see that it's red. Okay, well what if we want to make it green? Well, we would come here and we would write to brightness, okay, and then we would analog write red pin to 0, and we would analog write green pin to brightness. And so let's see, that should take this to green. Green pin, waiting for it. It's a little slow to download today. Did not go down. Try it again. I'm just having the darndest time with this cable that I have, and it's just not happy with the cable I have. But it's the only one that I have that's long enough, so I can't really swap it out. Okay, need to do a little bit of debugging, make sure that we are on port 11. Kind of come over here and make sure that we don't have anybody else talking to that one. Okay, make sure that we're on the right board, the Arduino Uno. That looks good. The port is port 11. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it, and then I'm going to plug it back in to see if I can get it all happy again. And usually you never have this problem unless you're trying to use a long, which is what I'm trying to do here. Okay, it went that time, it looks like, and I am still not getting a green. So I have the brightness set to 150. I have green pin set to 10. And let's see, believe it or not, I did not have green pin hooked into 10. Now I have green pin hooked into 10. So I had a little bit of a problem with my circuit. But that's called debugging. That is called troubleshooting. So let's see if we can get that down there like that. I just really wish I could get you where you could see this a little better. Let me see if I can put a little piece of paper over it. No, that doesn't help much. I'm going to turn that green back down and see if I turn the green down, you can see it as green a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, that shows up better as green. Okay. So you see with the brightness there, I can turn the green on, I can turn the red off and the blue off, and I have green. Okay, now the interesting thing though is that I'm only writing one of those pins at a time. Like I bring green up, I put the other two down, or if I make red up, I bring the other two down. So I'm only putting one color at a time, red, green, or blue. And we talked a little bit, played a little bit with the levels that we wrote, but what if I wanted a beautiful aqua, sort of a beautiful turquoise color? That would sort of be, I would want a little bit of green, but I would also want a little bit of blue. And so what if I brought this up to brightness here as well? So I'm going to have a little bit of green, I'm going to have a little bit of blue, and let's see if we can sort of get a turquoise kind of aqua going there. Oh yeah, that is sort of a turquoise aqua, but you can see that it's a little bit too much blue and not quite enough green. And so I'm going to get down and dirty here, and I'm going to start just writing numbers in instead of dealing with my variables. And so I want a little bit more green and not quite so much blue. And so let's make this 90 on the green, and let's make this 50 on the blue, and see if we can get a little bit more of kind of a turquoise. That is a little bit too blue for my taste. And it is trying to download, and it is trying to download, and waiting for it. Did not like it. Let's try it again. Okay. Yeah, that is getting to be more aqua. It's still more blue than I like, so I'm going to turn that blue down even further. Okay, I'm going to turn the blue down even further because I want a little bit, I really want a turquoise color. Okay, this is really starting to get turquoise now. I'm going to turn it down even a little bit further. So you can see the blue is a little bit more powerful, and so to kind of get a blue-green, I'm having to put just a little bit of blue and a lot of green, and that is the color that I was, that is really the color that I was looking for there. See if you can kind of see it through there. That's really a pretty aqua that I was trying for, I was really shooting for. Okay. So let's see what else we could do with this. Okay, so we could get the green and the blue to make aqua. What if we got red? Let's make a red of 100, and let's bring green to 0, and let's bring the blue up to 50. What if we mix blue and red together? What do you think we would get there? Okay, blue and red, you can see that we're kind of getting a purple there. We're getting a nice purple color. Okay, what if we mixed red and green together? And let's put blue to 0. What if we did that? Okay, I'm getting sort of, that's looking a whole lot of green there. And so I'm going to turn the green down and just let that red come out a little bit more. if I put red and just a little bit of green in with my red. Okay, now I have orange. Okay, so what you can see is that you can start getting the in-between colors. And really what you ought to do is you ought to come up here, and what we ought to do is make like a red brightness, a green brightness, and a blue brightness, and then write those variables down here, and then up here what we should do is just change the values up here instead of changing down here. But I just kind of got down here and started kind of doing some pretty ugly stuff that you really shouldn't do. But it was more today not so much about programming, but more about a new component, the RGB LED. So what your assignment for tomorrow is to go in, and I want you to create a bright red, a bright green, and a bright blue. So show me that you can do red, green, and blue. Then I also want to see cyan, magenta, and yellow. And what's cyan, magenta, and yellow? Well, you might have to go onto the internet and do a little bit of looking. In fact, you might even find right values that you could write to get a really nice pure cyan, magenta, and yellow. And then what I would like to see is purple and pink and orange. Okay, cyan, magenta, and yellow, purple, pink, and orange. And I really want you to, don't just get it sort of. You really go in there and get beautiful colors and do some research and figure out how you would write those colors and try to sort of see how these mixing colors go. Hey, let's try one other thing. What if I put 100, 100, 100? What if I put equal values of the red, the green, and the blue? I mix red, I mix green, and I mix blue. And look at that, I pretty much get white. Maybe the blue is a little bit strong there. Let me turn the blue down a little bit. But if I mix red, I mix green, I mix blue, I can get white. So what you can do is you have a lot of fun with this LED, and you can really go in and try to get all of these different colors. And so have fun. I'll come around tomorrow for a grade, or if you're doing this on your own, remember it's for your own benefit to do this, and so do your best to get these different colors. This is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. Hope you'll join us shortly for Arduino lesson number 14. On lesson number 14, we're going to come in and we're going to work more with this RGB LED, but we're going to work more on the programming side to start programming it up to really do some of these different colors. But tune in, thanks a lot, and we will see you shortly.